I've had an email asking about the high availability options within DHCP on server 2012R2. There are some things in there that a lot of people don't realise and they don't make use of them, things like load balancing or failover. So I thought we'd have a quick look at how we can configure some of them. So firstly, just for my demo environment, I've got a very straightforward setup. It's just a domain controller here. It's got DHCP installed, so let's just have a quick look at that. So at the minute there's just a single scope setup, I believe. Yeah, there we go. And it's just my lab workstations. So what we'll do, we'll have a look and see what's involved in making this highly available. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just set up another machine and get DHCP installed on that server as a role. So let's switch to that server and we'll have a look at that one. So this is my second server. It's a vanilla 2012 build at the moment. In fact, I can't even remember what I've called it, so let's have a quick look. So it's called DHCP Failover. Now the first thing I'm going to do is actually just install DHCP on this server. It's pretty easy to do. We'll just start it with Server Manager. And what I'm going to do is add roles and features. That's the server we're adding to, DHCP Failover. And what I'm going to do is just add the DHCP server service. There we go. So we'll click next and just let that install. That's all we need to install at this point. Let's just wait for that to finish and we'll come back to it. And there you go, that's finished. Didn't take long at all. You'll notice that it says configuration is required after installation. That's absolutely fine. So what we're going to do is just click close. And you'll notice the little exclamation mark up here telling you that there's extra stuff that needs doing. So I'm just going to click on that and it says we have to complete the DHCP configuration. So click that and let it run. Click commit. And what it's going to do now is do the AD work and authorize it. There you go, that's done. So we've now got DHCP on this server, but we haven't done anything with it. So what we need to do is now go and configure the high availability options that we want. So to do that, we'll jump across to that other server. So here we are on our main DHCP server. Now the query I got in the email is that the guy who was looking at this couldn't find the options for configuring the failover. And let me just quickly show you why. If you look at the service, for example, it's not in there. It's also not on the actual server itself. Now the reason for it is that the failover is actually configured at a scope level. So if you actually go down to the scope, that's where you will find the option to configure failover. So let's go through this because it's very, very simple to do. So the first thing we need to do is decide which scopes we want to make highly available. Again, I've only got one on here, so that's all I can select, but you could have multiple ones on there if you wanted. Now we need to actually select the partner server. So this is the alternative server that we want to configure this partnership with. That's the name of my server. You can also, of course, browse to it as well. But let's just click next on that and it should go off and context it. There we go. So the next thing we need to do is actually create the relationship between the two. So you can call it pretty much anything you like, but bear in mind if you've got multiple DHCP servers, you might want to try and think of a good naming convention. So I'm just going to call mine the main failover partnership. You also need to choose the model. So you, for example, you can have hot standby, which is effectively active passive, or you can have the load balance. I'm going to go with load balance for now. And we're going to leave the load balancing settings as default. Now, the other thing you can do is actually set a secret password for this relationship. So I'm going to set one for that as well. There we go. So click next. And it will give you a summary of what it's going to do. And then we can click finish. And off it will go and actually make those settings for you. So as you can see, it's very, very simple to set up. And it's effectively now done. So let's click close. Now what we'll do is we will have a look at the other server as well. So let's jump across to that server and we'll see what it looks like from that side of the fence. So this was our failover server. So let's see what it looks like from here. So I'm going to fire up the DHCP admin tool. Here it is. Just open it up a little bit so you can see it. Now, if we look in here now, what you should see is that range or that scope replicated across, and there we have it. You'll see the scope options there, everything that's set. You'll see everything that's come from that other server. So if we right click and get the properties of that, you should see, for example, under the failover, it will give you some more information about the mode that it's in, you know, whether it's running okay and all kinds of stuff. So as you can see, actually setting up this option for failover is very, very simple. The hard part, bizarrely, seems to be finding those failover options. I'm not quite sure why people struggle to actually find them. It is scope level, it's not based on the server itself, because you can have multiple relationships of scopes to other servers, for example. Anyway, pretty easy one, so I hope you found it useful.